Hi guys and welcome back. In this video we learn about default parameter values in Python. Let's get started. We've got a function here called add and it takes two arguments, so it has two parameters, x and y, and then it's going to print the result of adding them together. So normally you would call this add function with two arguments, so 5, 8 gives them 5 and 8 to x and y. However, you can have default values for one or two of these parameters by just saying in the function definition y equals 8, say. Again, we usually don't put spaces around this equal sign when we use it for a default parameter value. And what this means is that x is a required parameter and y now is an optional parameter. If you don't give y a value when you call the function, it will use the value 8, which is defined here. So instead of doing add 5, 8, you can just do add 5. And 5 will become the value for x, since that is the first parameter and the first argument. And because there is no second argument, y will use its default value 8. So if we run this code here, you'll see that 13 comes out. Similarly, you can do, of course, x equal 5 if you like, and still y doesn't have a value, so it will use the default value of 8. So this means exactly the same thing. What you can't do, though, is do this, y equal 5. Because x is a required parameter, you need to give it a value, and here we are not given it. So if we were to run this code, you would get that add is missing one required positional argument, x. So you need to give x a value. As usual, you can still do x equal 5, y equal 5, that's totally fine. And of course, you cannot do x equal 5, 5, because as we learned earlier on, you can't put a positional argument after a keyword or named argument. Similarly, that also applies for the add function definition. You cannot have a default parameter be followed by a non-default parameter. So here it'll tell you that a default value must be specified here in y because you've specified one earlier on. So default parameter values must go at the end after all the required non-default parameters. Something to take into consideration when you are defining functions is to usually not do this. So here we've got a variable called default_y and it's equal to 3. And then we're defining an add function and making the y parameter equal to our default_y variable. So y will equal 3 and that will be the default value for the y parameter. Now we can call add with the value 2, let's say, and then it will do 2 for x and 3 for y, giving us a total of 5. However, if we then go and change default y to 4, and then we add again, let's say add 2, now you'll see that actually we get the same value back from the function. So changing a variable that has been used as a default parameter value does not modify the function. So this value here, this 3, is defined when the function gets created and it doesn't change after that if you reassign the variable. So this is why I don't usually recommend doing this, because it can get really confusing really quickly. So stick to putting the actual value on the function unless you really have to do something different, and then make it clear that that value is not going to change after defining the function. So that is how you define default parameter values in Python. Just put them in the function definition. Just make sure they are at the end of the parameter list. Thank you for joining me in this video, and I'll see you in the next one.